Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Angel Park Weekly Update. As always, make some noise. It's the one and only Kareem Brown here. I want to start by saying golf season is coming upon us. As you guys see, we're finally getting through the weather. Got some nice weather coming up here in the week, so come on out, get involved in the golf community, play Cloud9, get on the mountain and palm course, go grab some food from Nino's Kitchen, grab a drink, just come out and get involved in the golf community. So golf season's upon us, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, we want to start by saying thank you to the ladies who participated in the women's golf this past Saturday. They had a great time at the driving range, just practicing and just networking, getting involved with each other. So we want to say thank you to them. Shout out to all the ladies in that. This week, we got coming up the Random Golf League on Monday, starting at 6:30. They'll be playing the Cloud9, $15 per player, no appointment needed or anything. Just come on out, bring your sticks, and get involved. Today's episode, we got Jed Francese and Robby Becker. They're going to be interviewing each other back and forth, so it's going to be a really cool show. Just a heads up, though, there's going to be a little profanity with the language. Just want to give you guys a heads up. But other than that, it's going to be a great show. It's going to be amazing. I hope you guys enjoy it. So as always, hit them straight, and we'll see you here at Angel Park.
Hello, Las Vegas, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Golf at the Park, Angel Park Golf Club's weekly interview show. I want to thank you for liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Our subscribers have already doubled in the last few weeks. Really excited about that. Thank you for everybody that's tuning in and sharing it with their friends. We really appreciate it. Today is a special day for me. I'm excited. It's going to be a really interesting show.
Special.
I'm going to introduce right now Robby Becker. Robby, thanks for coming on the show.
It's good to be here.
We can start by saying that Robby Becker is my best friend of almost 30 years now, and we met at Angel Park Golf Club here. And so the stories kind of go all over the place. His golf story starts much earlier, so we're going to get into that. The only way that he would agree to be on the show is if he could interview me. So we're going to, after we record this one, we're going to switch roles, and I'm going to be on the show.
I think that's fun because I think he's done enough of these now that people need to know who the man behind the pictures really is.
That's fun. It's very self-absorbed and self-indulgent, but it's exciting, and we're gonna have a good time with it. The reason that it was important for me for the show to have Robby on is Robby is the artist who contributed what, in my opinion, is the star of the show. The backdrop that looks so good now that we've got the lighting dialed in. It's a cool piece of art. Please go check him out at Robby Becker Art and check out all of his stuff because he is now a professional artist. He is no longer in the game of golf, even though he was a golf purist. So let's start exactly at the beginning, where you were introduced to golf and start young.
Yeah, golf has been in my life for a long time. I believe the origins are my Aunt Jean out of Bountiful in Utah. Most of my family played golf, and she, at one point, I think I was a little older than most people starting. I was 12 or 13, and she gave me a putter, and she was talking golf a lot. And then my uncles, my Uncle Randy, my Uncle Mike, always golfers, so I took that putter home and was smacking it around the house, and till one day I said, "Dad, let's go play." And Pops took me out to play 9.
In all the years I've known you, I've never heard that. And I think you must have obviously you got fast good then. If you didn't, or you got pretty good very fast.
Well, that first 9 holes, I had a great time and was bit quickly. So I made Pops take me out again, and he knew that it looked like I liked it. So we went to whatever the store was back then, Sears or something, and got super cheap, like, I guess it was a 3-iron, 5-iron, 7-iron, 9-iron, and a 3-wood and a putter.
Bag.
Just the basic set. And he turned me loose, bought me a pass then. It was maybe a couple $100. And
driving range pass or
no,
a golf pass?
Because in Idaho, it was a very good deal. Highland Golf Course. It was a good deal back then.
Pocatello, Highland Golf Course in Pocatello, Idaho.
50-cent water fees that I remembered to pay every now and then. But you know what? I shot with those clubs I shot like a into the 40s for 9 holes at one point, and it made me so focused on the fact that I could break 40 by the end of summer that I told my dad, I was like, "Can we get a real set of golf clubs if I can break 40 by?" And he chuckled. He was like,
So you were just interested at 12 and hooked.
Yeah. So it was probably my summer of 13
13.
or 14. Yeah, and I was so hooked that I set a goal to break 40 and get new clubs, because I even had some picked out at the store, some Browning automatics.
Browning automatics.
Yeah, and you know what? Was able to do it by the end of that summer. So my game, after 1 year, my game was getting in the ballpark of real.
So junior high.
Late junior high, because in high school, which I was 3-year high school, my first year of high school, I was on the golf team and did not suck, I guess. Yeah, I was reasonable. Yeah.
Did you have a teacher? Did you take lessons?
No. I had followed example. I think my best teacher was the VHS at my house, because I recorded all the golf tournaments I could. Unfortunately, I was talking about this with the guys we were out with the other day that have such good swings and are just bombing it.
Kendall, we were out on the course with Kendall, who's going to be on the show soon.
And I mentioned to him how it was really a blessing and a curse that, Fred Couples was the guy that you watched his swing, and if you try to emulate that swing, do not do that. Pick somebody that is in line a lot more, because I loved his swing, and I tried to, and that had me so loopy and it had me hit the ball everywhere, and I still do hit the ball everywhere because of that. It took me a while to learn to keep my swing in line instead of just being all over the place. I look like Furyk out there or something and because Couples is unique, just how he does it. But yeah, my teacher was me putting on the carpet at home, watching video recordings of the players I loved. Yeah.
I can't believe I didn't know any of this about you, because by the time we met, you were already an accomplished college golfer, and you had come to visit to play in a tournament with Andy Dyro. We'll get to that, but let's go back, because I didn't know that. So you were just pretty good as a high school player. You were more than pretty good.
Yeah, I held my own at state each year, and I mean last year maybe a top 10, but as a team, we didn't win state, and it was always disappointing because we were pretty decent front to back. But kind of the same in college, really pretty good.
So how do you end up playing in college? Did you just walk onto the team, or did you get a scholarship?
No, I got a scholarship from for Idaho State. Go Bengals. Which was kind of a sliding door for me, because I had an opportunity to go to Utah State and Boise State and a little bit of look at Utah, but just not as much funding to go to school, and I didn't have any money, so Idaho State it was. Go. And thank goodness, because that was I had an academic scholarship that helped as well, and so.
Yeah, and you did really well in school. You got 2 degrees, so talk about that.
Mass comm with emphasis in photography, which later became artistic, and then psychology, which is also just as worthless, but good for me in the long run, because I can analyze a lot of situations pretty well. Right.
So tell us about your college golf experience. Or tell me a little bit about baseball. I know you have a funny baseball story with a pro. So tell us that story.
You talking
Eric Karros?
Oh, Eric Karros. I've been hit in the face by Eric Karros. And some minor league brawls, and got to know Walt Weiss in that same frame of time. That's an old pull for a lot of people.
Yeah, we're dating ourselves with all of these references.
Yeah, I was a baseball player because my dad was such a baseball player. Growing up, I was very baseball until
the golf bug.
Until I got that golf bug, and I shifted on everything. I didn't really play much soccer anymore. Didn't play much baseball anymore. I was. As most of your guests have alluded, golf can get you, and it got me.
Right. It's funny. It bites everybody.
I had a girlfriend when I moved to town ask me about the level of importance of things in my life, and I told her, well, you are third, and that's because golf is first and second. So sorry, but that's just how golfers golf.
Well, so we talked about academically you did well, but you did well because you were focusing on golf, right? And so tell us about your golf career at Idaho State.
Well, at Idaho State, it was just pretty average. Got to see a lot of great golf courses. Got to go to a lot of good tournaments. I mean, I got.
Where
to
were
play,
some of your favorites?
I got to play Olympic Club.
Wow.
And I got to play Pebble. I mean, we got invited to a lot of good tournaments. And the harder the course, obviously, the more I struggled because I didn't see those courses all the time. But learning, it just teaches you a lot. It learns to dial yourself back, stay in control. So I could blow up every now and then, but I was pretty steady, hanging in there, and it taught me to keep going. That's when I moved here.
Well, let's talk about that because
was
that's
to keep
fun for
going,
me.
yeah.
Andy Dyro is the connection there. Want to shout out Andy. I don't even know if he's watching these, but a long-time Angel Park story and a great guy. Tell us how you met Andy and how you ended up coming down to play at Angel Park.
Well, Andy was the big brother of one of our crosstown rivals. His little brother Ryan played for Pocatello High School, and I actually hung out with those guys a little bit more than I did my own team. So I knew Ryan pretty well and had met his brother. And when I realized where he worked, he told me one time, I was like, I'm going to be in contact with you when I graduate college because
I want to go to Vegas.
Yeah, and like you said, I had come down for a tournament with one of the guys on the golf team, Eddie Spaghetti. We played, and we did pretty well, and it was good. The Pro Scratch, great tournament. And I looked at the facility. Angel Park, to this day, still has all of those things that are super attractive. I mean, Dyro got me a job in the golf
in the cart barn,
and we were. It was fun. But there's a great putting green out back to putt and chip. The driving range, and it was open late, so I could.
Yeah, we were open
until
till midnight back then.
And Cloud 9, I didn't realize it would be such an effective tool to get better because Cloud 9, people blow it off as like a novelty or something to just go have fun on. It is good for your game. If you can dial it in on Cloud 9,
You've learned a lot of shots for course management on the big course.
You're really treating yourself well. Yes.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. You left out the part of the girl, Jocelyn Jones. We'll drop the name.
JJ.
So you come down, you're playing in a tournament, she's washing your clubs, and you ask her out, and she says, no, you don't even live here. And you said, well, what if I did live here?
I said, well, I'm going to. So
it's a great story.
Here I come.
So let's get into the Angel Park days. That's kind of, this is really
Good
fun.
days,
That's when
good
we
days.
meet, because I'm already working here, and we'll get to that in my story. But we meet, and there's a group of guys that we won't go through the whole list of them, but I'm sure more than a few will get brought up today. But it was almost like I use the analogy of a fraternity, or almost, I don't mean to say that it's military based, but it was in some ways. Mike Tusa was from the military, and he ran us hard. And it was just a young group of guys that all loved golf. Right.
Yeah,
so let's talk about that a little bit.
And whichever of you are watching, sorry we don't mention everybody, but that's because it was such an extensive crew,
network of guys,
cool guys that, and you don't see this a lot these days in a workplace, but we worked for each other really good because we were tip based.
It was like a team,
and everybody wanted to up the tips in their pockets so that everybody was proud of them, and it all worked out in the end for getting more money. And a lot of people liked hanging out with each other. It was really
to set
unique.
The frame for what Angel Park was in 95, 96, and 97. It was the newest, coolest thing in town. There wasn't a Bally High. There wasn't a Bears Best. There wasn't a Sienna and Arroyo. There wasn't any competition. And so we had all of the money, all of the tourists, the resort money. We were so busy, we were running double shotguns every day. And it was just for public because everybody wanted to play either first out or second out. And we had to do it that way to fill the golf course, to maximize the tee sheet.
Yeah, and that customer service we hit on all those people was pretty phenomenal. It's rare that I see that
anywhere anymore. You have to go to a pretty high-end place.
It was pretty good, and everybody was fun-loving, and it was a good crew. And that also helped my golf game because a couple of those guys were
So let's talk
hardcore.
about them.
Yeah.
Those will be the good ones. I know Dave Yerrick was one of the really, really good players
Very.
here back in the day. Let's talk about some of the others.
First and foremost in my mind is Mikey Altman.
Mikey Altman.
Because he and I would work the same shift, load up our bags, and we were a really good match. It was battling every day.
You guys are both scratch players.
Yeah.
So your guys are
we'd
both
go out
legit
there,
players.
and it would be a legitimate round each day, and we'd come down to the wire, and the scorecard would be a mess because we had
Presses
so
and-
many presses. The thing looked like a mathematical problem. And often it would just be he and I, and because everybody else was like, I don't even want to play with you guys because it's just stupid. You guys are idiots, and you forget we're playing with you anyway. But great battles, and we got better together pretty well doing that. So it was good times.
One of my favorite golf stories of you and Altman is the Cloud 9. One of your matches ends up where the daylight runs out. You guys are still gambling. You move it to Cloud 9, and you're doing some of the this got brought up in Brandon Bauman's episode where in college they liked playing a par 3 and mixing tees and greens, and we used to do that a lot back in the day. So tell us about your match with Mike that day.
Well, it was something official. I can't remember what tournament it was. It might have been the Pro Scratch.
The Pro Scratch
where we
shootout?
do the shootout on the. It was something official because Rob Huff, officiating at the end, decided because there was somebody on 9 green or something. He was just like, well, it was down to me and Mikey. And he just decided, well, we're just going to do cross country close to the pin.
So nighttime, 9 tee box. So up top.
And we're up top, and he says, go down to the island green.
So it's still elevated, but it's
Yeah.
shorter than it is from the back
Yeah,
tee
we don't
up.
really have yardage. We're just kind of eyeballing it. And so Mikey wants to go first, and he hits it, stuffs it 8 inches, and
It's over.
and he's giving me the business because he almost holed it out. But I bounced one in there that checks up about 2 inches from the hole, and I don't think Mikey said a word because I think we rode in together, and he was just deadpan silent and just
that still torments him to this day. He brings that story up. I can vouch for that, which reminds me of Tim Clark, another good player back in the day. And when we were just out shooting content pieces last week, we were on 18T of the Palm. I forgot to mention, this is completely non sequitur, but this is 17 of the Palm. I don't know if anybody really has described that yet, but if you were standing on 17T of the Palm, even though the color scheme wouldn't be like this unless you were on hallucinogens, this is the Suncoast in the back and a par 3. So really cool, hole number 17.
And
you have a hole 17 story?
Well, mostly I opted for this view. It's a little bit of an insider because I always liked the hole, and it set up well for a painting because of that. But I had my honeymoon right up in that room. Shout out Carrie Basie. So nobody knows that. Jed didn't even know that.
I didn't even know that.
But that's why I liked throwing that in there. I watched this and I'm like,
that's a good plug.
I'm an insider. Yeah.
Which brings us back to 18T and stories that guys live with for the rest of their lives. Tim Clark, you were telling me a story about, and then in one of the pictures that got posted, he came in and said, hey, good to see you guys. And you said, hey, you came up today. We were on 18T of the Palm. And he said, I've told that story over 100 times.
He knew exactly what
So tell
I was
the story.
talking about. Angel Park used to hold their own PAT that was slightly
Player's ability test.
that was actually slightly more difficult than the standard one, but there happened to be one. I believe it was combined.
But just to explain that, the player's ability test is a stage when you're going through the program to become a PGA professional.
So yeah, if you want to get into the business,
you got to pass a PAT.
Even and Angel Park wanted their shop guys to be just that much sharper. But I believe this one was combined, so it was actually good for both. And Timmy I think he was right on the edge of the Angel Park one, but he really wanted to pass the other one in case he went to another golf course and could work there. And I think he had a 2-shot cushion stepping on the tee
Of 18.
and it's not a It's not a brutal par 4. You can just kind of bunt your way to a 5 if you're playing like he was playing pretty decent.
You just can't miss it in one spot.
And he just snafu'd that thing, big old hook that went out quickly. Everybody knew it was out.
Yeah, Tivoli Village is built over there now.
And that gave him the shakes, and he did not qualify.
Sorry, Tim.
And we all remembered it because he was pretty smiley and happy once he got by 17, because 17 is the
one that gets
the hurdle, because it was playing pretty long, and that was the hurdle, and then he just hit that hook, and ouch. Yeah.
Stories. Let's tell more stories. Another one of my favorites is Joe Lombardo. Shout out Joey.
Sorry, Joe.
Joey and I have a long golf history, and so I think he's going to end up being on the show eventually too. Tell us about Joey Lombardo's putter.
I finally have to apologize.
Oh, you've never apologized?
I think I have, but I probably it deserves a few more. But I had broke a putter, and I was kind of looking for something else, because I pretty much always play a ping answer 2, because all golf shops used to carry them. In fact, I saw one in this golf shop the other day and commented, because there would be a tendency to maybe break a putter, and I wanted one that would be pretty readily available at any golf course. But I wanted to get away from that for a little bit, and Joey had a putter that had a nice weight about it and felt really good, so I took that out.
It wasn't a Scotty Cameron yet, was it? I don't remember.
I don't think so. That's a shame that I don't even remember what it was, so sorry again.
It makes the story better.
But at that point, I'm a pretty tall guy, but I was trying to hang my arms a little bit more instead of crowd myself and give myself some room, so I actually took Joey's putter and cut about 1.5 inches off of it and re-gripped it, and was putting great with it.
So you borrowed Joe's putter, you cut it
down,
and put a new grip on it.
Put a new grip,
and then just put it back in his bag.
No, I played with it for a few days.
Well, yeah,
pretty well.
But then,
but as soon as I got myself the equivalent and did all those same things to the new putter, gave it back to him, and
yeah, Joe tells the story. He went to go play one day. He didn't know, and he pulled it out of his bag, and he didn't think it was his putter, is the way he tells the story. And you said...
And I said, don't worry about it, Joe. It's going to work out a little bit better for you that way. And I'm not sure if it did or not. I'm not sure if I was proven correct or
great.
wrong. But, yeah.
It's
sorry,
great.
Joey.
You're the only guy I know that can get away with that, and it's funny. Not to Joe, but to everybody else.
I should, on the apology tour, I should probably apologize to Mikey Altman for spitting beer in his face the one time.
Oh, yeah, over
yeah.
golf shoes and dress shoes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You were in a bar and wanted to go to a nightclub, and it was a golf shoe, dress shoe situation. And
yeah, needed some shoes. And actually, I think it was Billy O that needed the shoes, and Mike was like, no, not taking the shoes. So I acted unreasonable.
Sorry, Mike. I'm apologizing for you. I don't know why I'm doing that. All right, let's talk about my 3-iron. So now that we've covered Joe Lombardo's putter, we'll cover Robby Becker's story with my 3-iron. He's got a lot of stories with other people's clubs.
And unfortunately, there tends to be a pattern of the club not working. I can't take all the blame, because
so you're out of golf. We're about to get to when golf broke you. But you're out of golf, and you don't have a set of clubs. So we're fast forwarding a little bit, and you have a money game because you're still a player. You can still hustle a little bit.
No, it's actually went to Lake Havasu with Chris Cunning. We're playing a best ball. It's like a whole weekend best ball and everything. Not hitting it horrible.
Yeah, so you asked to borrow my clubs.
Yeah,
because you didn't have a set.
I didn't even have some. I do own clubs currently, thanks to Carrie Basie, because she likes playing every now and then. But yeah, I borrowed Jed's clubs, and I make I don't play very often decision on a long par 5 that I'm not going to reach the green in 2.
I should probably tell the story because
the other angle is a little different.
My angles comes in a little earlier or later. You called, or I called you to check in on, since it was a multiple day thing. I called you after the night on the first night, and I said, "How'd you play today?" And you said, "I played pretty good. I'm really happy with my round." And you said, "But there's something wrong with your 3-iron." And I said, what's wrong with my 3-iron? I didn't know anything was wrong with it. And you said, it's in 2 pieces in the side pocket of your bag.
Yeah. And it was. I mean, that is exactly what was wrong with it.
Oh.
Yeah, my safe tee shot on a par 5, since it's narrow and I wasn't going to get there in 2, was to hit a 3-iron. And I pulled a Tim Clark. And
How'd you snap it? I don't think I've ever asked you.
casually.
On your knee?
Yeah. It's a flaw. It's the flaw of my game. And to all the young golfers out there listening to these awful stories of broken clubs, because I did break quite a few putters in my day, and I've even had some stuck in a tree that I didn't even bother going after. That is not good. That is the downfall. That's why I'm
Out of golf.
That's why I'm out of golf, because I was trying real hard to play professionally.
Well, let's talk about the peak. Yeah, so you're playing very well. In fact, the Joel Damon episode that just aired on Netflix, Full Swing, was really impactful to me on a lot of levels. He lost his mom to pancreatic cancer when he was young. That happened to me. He ends up playing with his best friend as his caddy, his best friend from Idaho as his caddy. If it could get weirder than that. And at this point in 96, I think it was, you are trying to qualify you're getting ready to try to qualify for the Asian Tour. You're playing in U.S. Open qualifiers. I caddied for you on one of those. You're really trying to make a run. Let's talk about that period of time and then how that all starts down. This is kind of the peak and the beginning of the down.
Yeah. So, and I was playing okay. I had played in a couple way back Hogan Tour events, which turned into the Nike Tour, and I'd played in some Pepsi Tour events that was Southern California and things like that, and kind of maybe making enough here and there to pay for the trip, because that's a hurdle back then. I mean, like Pepsi Tour, I mean,
Brandon was talking about the same thing.
The winner would get a decent amount of money, but if you didn't take top 5, you're losing money on hotels and gas and stuff. But fun and good and good learning, but there was always something missing. I could have used a caddy that was there for
right
all those helpful things that a caddy could, because I did go to Australia, and being by myself just kind of weighs on you, making all the appointments and doing all the other things along with golf is difficult. You got to be ready for it, and I was still pretty young and loose and a little too fiery. Like I said, that was my biggest downfall.
Sure.
For sure. I just, you have to have the memory of a goldfish. It's not just in soccer. I mean, and that's legit in golf. I remember distinctly one of the guys from Idaho that was super, super good, Carson Mooney. He even went to Pepperdine, I believe. Could let it go, because I was in his group a lot, and he could hit a couple bad shots and would just be happy-go-lucky by like the next tee. And I remember that later. At the time, I didn't realize that was a quality a golfer should, one of the first qualities a golfer should have.
Yeah.
Is move on, attack the next obstacle. Don't think about. I mean, you gotta understand why you made the errors, but you can't dwell on the fact that it happened, and that's the big.
That's great perspective.
And by the time I started realizing that, and 3-footers started turning into real tense moments instead of fun on the golf course, that whole starts to go backwards on you, and you don't like doing it as much. Everybody's like, "Oh, but you're trying to play golf. That's perfectly awesome." And it's not as good when you miss those 3-footers regularly and break your putter.
Well, the game can get in your head and break you. I speak from experience. So, but you still kind of work in golf even after you decide you're not necessarily trying to play anymore. You still work here for a little while. You still work at Rose Ranch for a little while. Take us all the way out of your golf journey.
Well, yeah, when I got back from Australia, just kind of was floating around a little bit, and got in touch with Bennett, who was up at
Matt Bennett. What's up?
Matt Bennett, also a great guy to play with it.
Good player.
Yeah,
And before Daly came along, or maybe it was at the same time, he could hit the ball so far.
Yeah.
With he could hit a 7-iron 190 yards or 200 yards.
Talk about those Cloud9 games, because when he was on spinning his wedge, he could throw a dart at those things, and he got a little bit too proud of spinning it, because I think it hurt him a few times there and there. But he was working up at Rhodes, and I didn't not want to be involved in golf, because I was kind of going on the fallback, maybe shop job, and he was working in the shop, and had a good time. I even went to the first level of school in Southern California. We both went and took whatever tests we were supposed to take, and getting us into the golf program to become a Class A pro. And it hit me that day. I was like, Bennett, I think I'm going to go to the Angels game instead of do all this stuff, because I don't think it's my route.
You've always been a gypsy by nature. You get restless when you're in one spot for too long.
It's true. Big fan of traveling, and I can give golf credit for that, because growing up in Idaho, I was landlocked and locked in. People that live in Idaho tend to stay in Idaho because they like it for whatever reason, and I've become fond of it now in my older age. But yeah, growing up there, I was like, I need to go do other things, and so now I've been to many a country and traveled around for many reasons, and big fan of that lifestyle. It's not everybody can pull it off, as my brother-in-law Sean says. Not everybody can quite pull that one off, but just got to roll with it.
Yeah. And you do still love the golf culture. You still follow the tour. You still watch all the big majors.
Yep.
Golf never really leaves your system, even when you leave.
And now I'm in a happier place, because my wife has dialed me back to having fun on the golf course instead of. Don't get me wrong, I still go out there, and mentally I think I should do this, and as soon as it falls apart, I get a little bit of that pissed off tension, but she's got me in a place where I can go out and have a couple beers and play the round and smile, because it's beautiful weather, and we live in Florida, so there's lizards running around everywhere that are kind of crazy to deal with, but it's much. And I'm telling this guy he needs to get his swing back together so we can at least go play Cloud9 when the weather clears and I'm in town.
Yeah, I'm over here just laughing because of the last couple of guests. Rocky talked about how his favorite thing about golf is that he'll lie in bed at night and stare at the ceiling and wonder why he can't hit the ball the way he wants to. I still have that to this day. So I don't. Some of the guys are so nice. JR in particular just says, why don't you swing a club? Why don't you hit a shot? And I feel bad because I do. I need to start. So I'm going to. I'll start trying to. I think it's going to help, and I think it's going to happen now, which is weird, but I feel like I'm in a better place to finally get back to the game. But enough about me. We're going to get to me in the next episode.
But shout out to Angel Park again, because you live and work at a place that, boy, you could just go
magical spot
to the range. You could roll a few putts and you play Cloud9. It's pretty easy to light golf around here, actually.
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you, Rob. We're going to do the par 5 because I think we're done here. I was worried these were going to go too long. I feel like we could talk for hours. So hopefully this is about the right timing. But par 5, you ready?
Yes. And it is true about talking for hours, because if you put Jed and I in front of microphones, that could go a lot of directions. So I'm happy that we've kept it semi-professional and kind of time-oriented, I think. But if there was a guitar in here, there would probably be a small set list at the end that would be added on.
There's a guitar in my golf story, so we'll get to that later too. Question number 1, are you ready?
Par 5.
What's your favorite golf movie?
Well, listening to all the other people's answers, they're always dead on with Caddyshack, because I mean, let's be honest, that is the one. But nobody has said the one that I liked. I think because it had a lot of quotes, and a lot of people, I guess, haven't seen the movie. So for years,
you're not going to say Caddyshack 2, are you?
No, but for years, the quotes I've used out of this movie have probably fallen on deaf ears because maybe nobody knows. But Dead Solid Perfect.
Oh.
Do you remember that?
I don't think I ever saw it, but I remember it was a book that my dad and Larry Webb, the two golf pros that tried to play or played on the tour together in the 70s.
It had a
they
lot
read
of things.
the book.
It had a lot of things that hit right here for me because it's Randy Quaid, I believe. Randy Quaid, yeah,
The crazy one.
yeah. But he was a struggling tour pro, and he had a caddy that was basically a friend. And it kind of showed the angle of the struggling tour pro, and he had a wife that didn't quite get it. So there was some scenes in there that hit home. Like he comes home to the hotel and throws his bag down, and his wife's just kind of sitting there and like doing her nails or something, all happy, and he's fired up. And she goes, "Well, how'd it go out there?" And he does a little bit of a stare at her, and he goes, pardon the language, he goes, 70 fucking 4. She says, "Well," she kind of does the math. "Well, that's only 2 over par." And he pauses again. And he says, "Well, that'd be pretty good if Jacobson hadn't shot 65 and Blake hadn't shot 66 and a bunch of other guys shot 68. And so there's another dramatic pause. And then she says, "I saw a deer today." And he just says, "What?" He goes, "I saw a deer. Came dashing out of the mountains and ran across the fairway." And he goes, "Fuck a deer dashing out of the mountains and running across the fairway." And then he just goes, "Fuck Palm Springs. Fuck golf. Fuck me." And I was like, "Oh, yeah. That's," I was like, "Yeah, that's an honest portrayal of the situation I find myself in from time to time." A lot of good lines, though. He's on the range, and he's woke up all hungover because he's had a catastrophe of a tournament or whatever, and his caddy gives him like a tip how to hit a shot low to the left and get up high and fade. It's a great scene. Me and my buddies back in the day used to use that line on each other when we were obstructed by trees. We just go, "Hey, no, it's cool. Just address the sucker like it's sand, club on top," and just go through the whole routine. So that movie has always kind of
That's a great answer. I know you have your own set of clubs again. What's your favorite club in your bag and why?
Well, by mathematical default, I tried to make the favorite club the putter. I would walk around town with it like a cane.
You did walk around with a putter.
I would keep it close. I would break a lot of them because they let me down. But you hit, a lot of shots with a putter, and I never ever thought a 3-putt was acceptable. No matter where, what, and I was like, people groom this grass for a reason. It's for me to get it in that hole in as least amount of strokes as possible, and it shouldn't be that hard. So the putter should be. And I tried to make it my favorite, but I was very neutral in having a favorite club because I just wanted to be consistent with. I wanted to be so consistent with every club that there would never be a standout, and you would just accept them as tools and move along.
I remember you telling me Nick Faldo was your favorite golfer so many years ago because he just made pars.
Yeah, he's who I adopted as soon as I learned that Freddie was to be a favorite to watch but not to copy. Faldo, on the other hand, he was just such a contained studier of the swing, and he went out there to not beat himself. And even to this day, if I'm in like playing with my uncles or anything like that, I will be, look, you're playing against the golf course until you're down enough shots that's how many holes are left. If I'm down 4 with 4, I gotta start playing for the pin. I gotta take some chances. Otherwise, you're playing against the golf course. You're playing against yourself. And Faldo was that guy.
He was the master at that.
Yep.
Question number 3. What's your dream foursome? So 3 people, alive or dead, to play golf with you, and where would you play?
Well, I do love those days of Bennett and Altman and things like that.
Pick a couple guys.
But that sends me back to my high school and college foursome. Corey Carter, Jeff Bell, Steve Aubie. These are our Pocatello, Idaho guys that we would go out and have an incredible matches because everybody was very
Good players.
evenly matched, and we would play 36 during the summer. We'd play 36 every day with different matches and different styles of scorecard messes. And
Lifers, purists, and basically teenagers, early 20s.
And we loved it. And we'd even drive to all the local amateur tournaments together and cheer for each other. And that foursome, it was I would reconnect that at Highland again. At Highland
So you would
I would
pick
just,
a course there too.
I would just go play that game again. And possible, all those
You
guys.
could do that.
Yeah, I could do
I
that.
think that came up in another episode where I was like, you can have that dream foursome. You should make it a point to do that.
Yeah, I should. I still see those guys occasionally on Facebook is all. And it's been a long time since I've actually seen any of them. Steve went on to actually work. He decided to taper playing, but he loved golf so much he went to, I think it was Penn State agronomy, and ended up at Reflection Bay, taking care of their course in their heyday of Reflection Bay. And I was like, good gig.
Yeah,
Very good gig. Yeah.
that's awesome. Question number 4. Robby and I don't think we could come up with an equation to come up with how many drinks we've had together over the years. But on the golf course, what was your aiming fluid back in the day? And I know you didn't drink on the course very much. You were one of those who took it serious.
Back in the day, I would have a banana in the bag and water, and kept going with the water, and make sure maybe a Gatorade at the turn if you were really dehydrated, but I didn't like changing my body chemistry too much. And
you were that serious.
I was like, I definitely didn't drink soda or anything back then and on the golf course. And that shifted when I shifted. And now I usually still won't start too crazy, but couple ice cold beers in the cooler.
It's one of the best things on the golf course.
And I mean, if things start going a little sideways, some whiskey wouldn't hurt. But yeah, even to this day, I still have that back of my mind golfer that I don't really chase too much alcohol out there, because I still when I tee it up today, I think I'm gonna shoot 68. And it doesn't happen, but when I'm teeing it up, it still feels that way. Yeah,
I think it's so neat that we have a group of people. It's almost half and half that drink, and they're only out there to drink, and swear, and they're only out there to swear. And then there's a group that doesn't drink, and they don't swear, or they try not to. And it's so fun because everybody loves the game for the same ways, and it's neat. Which brings us to the swearing. You've already dropped a few of them, so
already cracked that.
We don't even need to say it anymore. But this is one of my favorite stories of yours that we intentionally saved. We already know what his word is when he gets very upset, and it's just an F-bomb, and it's just very short and sweet, and that's what does it for Rob. And now why don't you tell us the story of the greatest achievement of use of that word in golf history?
Well, as you know, that word can fit a lot of situations, and
it's multi-purpose.
Yes, it sure is. But I had enough of a problem with anger on the golf course, which is strange because I am
not an angry person
like this in life, and I think all my anger went to bad golf.
I lost a lot of my frustration and anger with golf.
Yeah, but there was a round. First hole was par 5, and it was a course I knew well, and I put it in there about 6 feet for eagle.
And it was some sort of a match. It was a tournament, or it meant something because you were playing with guys that were playing serious.
It was the first round of, I think, a 3-rounder. And so this is the first hole of a 54-hole thing, and I'm like, I'm rolling down that fairway, with the hole taking off the glove and smiling at the other guys because they're not even anywhere near the hole. And I promptly 3-putt for par. And I don't say anything for a minute or two, but as I'm walking up to the next tee box, I just start unloading the F-bombs. And a string of them, loud, and
that's the only word you're saying.
That's the only thing I'm saying. I'm just
like you're on Tourette's.
I am
like
just
you have Tourette's.
launching it. But then I calm down for the next tee shot or something. didn't say much that next hole. And then I think I birdied like hole 3. And the guys are like, "Hey, good comeback, way to keep your head." And I'm like, "Fuck."
So you're still mad.
Fuck.
You're still just saying the
And they're
same
like,
word.
what are you talking about? You par birdie. And I'm like, fuck. And they're like, okay. And I didn't say another word
For 3 days?
no, it was
Or just that day?
I think it was hole 16 I birdied too, and I think that got me back to red because I had a mess of a day and I was still too angry but I think I birdied 16 to get under par. And I think on the next tee I was like, sorry guys. And I don't think I said anything else besides that. Signed the scorecards at the end. I'm pretty sure those guys still probably tell that story because they were like, wow, that was the biggest asshole I've ever played with. Because I didn't say one word besides sorry guys for 18 holes besides fuck. And that's a problem.
And a good spot to end.
I've also gone the other route and played bad early and just decided not to say anything the whole round.
Oh, I've been out with you on a night where I've gotten the silent treatment. No, when you
Yeah.
decide you don't have anger, you just have a shut off switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The shut off switch. It's bad for your game. Memory of a goldfish is probably pretty good. Thanks, Ted Lasso, for that late lesson.
Thanks, man. This was cool. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to hit stop and record another one. So I don't know if we'll air them back-to-back weeks, but thank you again for tuning in on my self-indulgent episode a little bit. And until next time, hit them straight from your friends at Angel Park. Cheers.
First and foremost, it's like a
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of a whatever anyway. I mean, we'll just do
We're going to do the same thing we just did. I knew it was going to, dude. I think that I back and forth, up and down, and laugh so hard in that. I'm going to be a mess to edit in that one because I was so comfortable.
I will too because I did get around a little bit. I actually put my hand out there as an anchor.
Yeah,
I
and
was
you
like-
bumped this a few
did I?
times. Yeah.
I was like, that's gonna keep me from doing some shit, which is a little weird. But
I might use this as like a teaser or something. That's
check,
kind of
baby,
a fun.
check, baby,
1, 2, 3, 4. Check, baby, 1, 2. If you're
And-
ready, I'm ready. Well, give it a second. Don't clap it into it.
Robby interviewing Jed, take 1. Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Golf at the Park, a show presented to you by Angel Park and Jed Francese, normally. Today, I'm doing a takeover because now that there's X amount of shows in the bag, I think we need to take just a spot to learn a little bit more about our host.
And I agreed because it was his birthday and because I really wanted to have him on the show. So we've already covered Robby. His show will definitely air before this one. But I agreed to let you go. So,
Well, I will admit I did a costume change.
and you've done a costume change. We
'cause
recorded this on the same day.
I do own one golf shirt and one pair of pants.
So you got professional for this.
Well, I didn't put the pants on. Jed Francese, on the other hand, over the course of the last year, I've visited a few times, and he is Dapper Dan. He has really got into his game on wardrobe, and you're looking good lately.
Thank you. I've changed the look a little bit. Yeah.
Sharp. Now we need to get him on the golf course a little bit more, but
We've discussed that. We'll get to that probably later.
well, that is a very poor segue into the first step of the interview process, and
Yeah.
that is the origins of the Jed Francese. We'll call it the golf world. How did it all happen?
So I'm a third generation golfer. So my grandfather, my dad's dad, built the first golf course in a little town called Montrose, Colorado, on the west slope. And he literally built this little 9-hole golf course, ran it. My dad learned it on that course when he was pretty young.
Shout out to Papa Ed.
Yeah, the old man. We'll talk a little bit about him. I've already asked him to be on the show. I don't know if he's going to do it. He's a little camera shy, but we're going to work on that. But anyway, a little bit about him. He got very good young. And so by the time he was in junior high and high school, he was competing regionally and nationally against all of the guys his age that would become tour players with him. So he was very good, played college golf, and then played on the tour. So I've been around golf since I was born. And my dad had a playing partner, Larry Webb, who they would drive around on the tour back then. If people understand how the U.S. Open qualifying works now, so anybody can go to these qualifiers and enter, and you qualify, you get into the tournament. Back then, all of the tournaments on the tour were like that. So you'd drive on a Monday and play in the qualifier. So my dad and Larry would drive like the same way all of these young guys now are doing it. They were doing it in the 70s and the 80s. And they would leave the wives and the kids home. So we grew up with the Webbs as our brothers and sisters, and we were just constantly around golf in the background, right? We thought our dads were professional golfers. We thought it was the neatest thing in the world. As 5, 6, 7-year-old kids, you think daddy's playing with Jack Nicklaus, which in theory he was, but you know, my dad would laugh at that and tell the story different because he could never beat those guys, is the way he said it. So dad ends up, once he has the third kid, my baby sister, he decides to stop playing professionally and get into the club world and just run golf courses. So he did that. And I started playing when I was around 10 or 11 in Pine Top, Arizona. He ran a golf course called Pine Top Country Club. That's where I got my first job in golf. So I was picking the range for him for $2 an hour at 11 years old.
Hey, good gig if you can get it.
Yeah. And that's when I was taking swings, and my dad was giving me tips on my swing. And then we moved here my dad moved here to build Angel Park. So my golf story in Vegas starts when I moved here, and that was 1989. I was 14. And my first job in town was here at Angel Park. At Angel Park at that time, the only thing built was the Palm Golf Course and the driving range. In fact, there wasn't even a clubhouse. It was a little trailer that set out there by the cart barn. So it was a different course. It was a different time. The range was open until midnight.
That is a deep pull without even the mountain course, because I remember the mountain course being the last thing on the planet when you're out on those last holes.
Right, and when we moved here, the Palm
that's not even there.
Was the last thing
That's
in town.
Well, tell me how, as the son of the golfer like that, when I met you, you played and you liked to get out there. And
I was already on my way out, though.
You were mostly played because you were competitive. You didn't really care about your game that much. You just wanted to compete and see if you could beat people. So is that a product of your dad being so into golf that you just gravitated away a little from being a player?
Sure. So I started getting good enough. I mean, I had a good enough teacher and I had a little bit of talent. I was never great. But I was good enough to get on the high school golf team here at Bonanza and be, you know, the number 3, 4 man. I remember one tournament I got to play in the first group, so I was the 2 man, and I went out and just crapped the bed and wrecked my car on the way home. I was 16 or 17, and I was so mad that I up here in Summerlin, you know, those roundabouts. I took my Honda Accord in there too fast because I was driving home, and I bent both axles of my Honda Accord. So that's when I started to know that I didn't have the head for the game.
How about driving?
Or driving. It's funny. It's funny because it's true. So yeah, I guess the way that I would explain it is it was a big shadow, and I wanted the part of me that wanted to play wanted to be great. And if I would have taken it seriously and listened to my dad, I could have played college golf at a small school somewhere. I would have been good enough to do that, but I just didn't love it, and I hated that it. Rocky said a couple of weeks ago, one of the things he loves about golf, the thing he loves about golf is he loves staring at the ceiling
Yeah.
and trying to figure out at night why he can't hit the golf ball the way he wants to. Well, that broke me. At 15, I was doing that, and 16, and I couldn't. There was no reason for me to take golf seriously.
Well, that'll do it. I think I've told you the story of shooting like a 62 one time, and the only thing I could think of that night was the bogey I made on 15, and that's not fun.
Right.
I mean, what the heck?
No, I got to where it was either I was quick into the only way I can do this game is if I party, and no one was doing that with me. It wasn't even acceptable back then. It wasn't. It was either you play and you're a player or you don't play. I mean, so that was kind of I loved golf, but it just drove me bananas that if I would just practice, I would be pretty good little player. But I never had any desire to practice, so it felt like just running circles.
Well, you know what that
in my
makes me
head.
think of is a couple of your guests so far on previous shows have shown that window into new golf. And yeah, whatever, 20 years ago, there would be mostly pretty serious foursomes or and I'm not saying that the foursomes that we're talking about aren't serious, but they enjoy it in a slightly different way that is way more attractive and would have had you probably geared up towards the game.
I have completely fallen back in love with the game in the last year, and we're going to get to that in a little bit.
That transitions for me because now I see you doing a cool show, and you're deep into golf now, and it's a very cool job and a very cool place, and that's quite a span of time from back then to now. And how do you feel about everything that's going on now with you in golf?
I'm really, really excited about it. I think to set it up, it might be better to go back because I end up leaving golf in '98 and swore I was never going to play the game again or work in the game again. I swore on my life.
Don't swear.
I hated the game that much and needed to be away from it, and only playing it. I still loved watching it religiously. I still loved being out at the golf course. I still loved all the people. I just couldn't play the game. So I traded my Ping I2 Beryllium clubs that I got from my father. Pretty nice little set of clubs in 1994. I traded it straight up to John Morgan, Johnny Moe, one of the guys that used to work with us, good player. And he was getting serious about his game at the time. He really wanted those pings, and I really wanted his Ibanez guitar.
Ooh, good trade for everybody. It's a win-win.
Oh, it wasn't. The Ibanez guitar was worth like $200. Johnny Moe totally robbed me, but it was a good deal for me because I wanted to be in a band and I wanted to take my life in a completely different direction. That is enough about my time away. Because I haven't been at Angel Park since '89. I was gone from 97-ish until 2006. And in 2006 is when I started back here at Angel Park. The short version of that story is I didn't realize that golf, and it was new, I think, at the time. Golf had salespeople now. They didn't really have that when I was growing up. If you wanted to be in the golf business, you were going to give lessons. You were going to run your own golf shop. You were going to sell t-shirt or sell golf shirts and book tee times, and that was going to be your life. And I never wanted to do that. But I was a casino host for a few years, which is the salesman of the casino. It's pretty easy to sell gambling. It's pretty easy to sell golf. It's not if you're a type A personality and you're given something that's really easy to sell, anybody can be a good salesman. So that's when I kind of reignited a love for the game in every way but playing. I still didn't like to play. In fact, one of the cool things about my job back then is we would do these host trips where we would take casino hosts to Arizona and we would play really nice golf courses just as an incentive builder because they would send us play. And so I was paid to take these guys on golf trips and just party and play. And in that atmosphere, when I could play for 8 holes and then be a ringleader of the party enough that I could quit and just be around everybody, I liked golf again for that reason, right? So I'm back in the game and working in this industry for so long. It's probably time to bring up just a little bit of personal background, because it's going to make a lot of sense before we get to where I'm at this year. I've been an addict my whole adult life, alcohol and drugs, and very high functioning addict. I didn't realize that I am very severely bipolar. I didn't learn this until a little over a year ago, and I've been self-medicating that disorder my whole life, and at a functioning high enough level that I just seemed like the guy that partied and could keep it together. And unless you were really close to me, and then you could see that it became a problem more and more the older I got, and especially somewhere around 2018, I would say, it was getting really bad. I was just a mess, and I was not high functioning anymore, and I wasn't working my job here very well, and it was just a dark time for me. But I didn't realize it because I was in a pretty spiral that I didn't hit a bottom, so I didn't realize where I was at until COVID hit. And when COVID hit, that changed everyone's life, but it really affected mine, because when I got it, I was hospitalized, and COVID attacks your weakest organ. Mine was my liver, because it's cirrhosis 4. I've been drinking so much that I almost died. They thought I was going to need a liver transplant. I lost 65 pounds. I was in and out of the hospital for 3 months at the beginning of COVID. So 2021, the beginning of it, was just the most miserable year of my life. I started to get better and healthier physically that summer. And that's when things started to loosen up, but not quite. And we still didn't know what we were doing. Golf was huge now.
Yeah, well, I remember visiting you in the dark days of your physical, and you were very rough, but things were still very slow, so you didn't have that whole I'm at work in your face yet. And as soon as you started getting physically healthy, and then work's there,
and I'm working back into work. Golf's busy, and I'm working back into my job.
So you got
here.
a lot of action.
But my job has changed since COVID. So when I used to be selling groups, and we didn't have nearly as many groups, Ben, who's the tournament coordinator, took on selling the groups, and I shifted just to straight marketing. And I was still very frail, weak. I weighed 140 pounds or something, and I was on a cane. But I was coming into work, and I was taking pictures that people posted on Facebook and Instagram, and I was cutting them up and putting them into iMovie, and then making these really bad YouTube videos. And I was trying to do them once a week, and I was putting effort into the social media game, and I was doing it all wrong.
But you had to start somewhere, and that's a good direction for a golf course to start. I mean, this thing.
Well, it
becomes
a whole this
evolution. I mean, it's got to get off the ground somewhere.
Yeah. So that is where it forms. So it's a very strange time in my life, because now I'm getting physically healthy, but now I don't have my self medications because I'm sober, and I'm crazy. I mean, I'm really legitimately certifiably crazy, and I am on the extreme scale of this disorder. So I'm on 2 different medications, the highest dosage of each ones. I need them. And to explain that a little bit, so to take us back to October of that year, I'm feeling physically fine. I get told by my doctor that my liver is back to a point where, as long as I don't ever have another drink again in my life, I'm going to be just fine, which I'm never going to do. So I get a second chance at life, and I'm tickled and I'm over the moon, but I can't get my life to work. Everything is miserable, or perfect. I'm really bouncing over everything. I'm living in a manic episode the entire month of October of that year. And I'm in my office with my general manager, and he's telling me about how hard it is for him to have to fire somebody. And he's talking about someone else, but I'm bipolar. I'm in an episode. I'm feeling very poorly about my job performance. And I convince myself that he's telling me that he's getting ready to fire me and he doesn't want to. I'm convinced of it. So I
remember those phone calls actually. Yeah.
So I go crazy and I have to finally get help. And instead of checking myself into a facility, I called a doctor, or I used an app called Cerebral, and I got to sit down with a therapist and explain to her my situation and that I felt like I needed to be in a padded wall cell. And she said, well, I think it's bipolar, and I think if you take this medicine, you should feel better pretty quickly.
Shout out to Cerebral then.
And shout out to the most important part of this story. If you need help, go get help. Anyway, that's that.
Well, that's not that, because I agree. This day and age,
it's crazy.
Help is available, and it will really change your life if you just take a small step. So yeah,
it's magical.
That's very important.
It's magical
to hit on that. Yeah.
So this fun thing happens. This miracle thing happens. This medicine kicks in, and my brain works the way that it's supposed to work. For the first time in my life, I understand what I had been dealing with. Because my brain slowed down. I use the analogy of it's like when you tune a guitar down a half a step. It just kind of makes everything lower and slower. And immediately I came into work and I was shot out of a cannon. And I was like, I get a second chance, not just at my job, but at all the things in my life that I had taken advantage of, not done my best in. Relationships that I needed to heal. Wardrobe changes. But we got to get it back to golf. I come in and I feel like I'm working at Angel Park for the first time in my life where I'm in. I love it. I like breathing the air. I like coming out and seeing the golf course. And I have to shout out PJ now at this part of the show. PJ ran the cart barn at the time. He's a young guy. He left here to go to the PGM program at UNLV. He's going to end up being on the show. But he was just a younger guy that I went to and I said, hey, tell me who you like on Instagram. I know you're a golfer. You're taking it seriously. And he introduced me to Eric Anders Lang and Random Golf Club and Roger Steele and all of these guys that keep coming up in all of these other episodes that we're having, golf influencers and just people who are doing it right. And I just soaked it up and I started working my job 15, 16 hours a day. I just loved learning all about it. And this whole idea started brewing right then. So that was December of last year. And that's when I start meeting all of these amazing people in this golf community. There's so many people expressing their love for the game and doing it through content, and they play all over town, and all of these groups overlap. And so the first few that I met that I really need to thank the most, of course, is Mike the Video Wizard. He came to me. It was like kismet. All this stuff is happening at the same time. I'm working out my meds, so I'm slowly easing into them, and I'm feeling better and better as weeks go by. Last January and February, Mike comes to me and he says, I have this idea of starting this little YouTube channel. And I said, I have this idea of starting a podcast, a video show. He says, and I do drone footage, and it would be fun to fly drones out here. And
he's an incredible drone pilot.
He's a great filmmaker, and he just wants to come out here and do it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I learned from him. Then I met Brett Brunel. Shout out to Brett. Brett not only built Random Golf Club's chapter here in Las Vegas, he's just recently moved to Phoenix and built theirs. So Eric's already had him on his podcast. they're doing great things and building, again, these communities and this networks of golf groups and clubs that are doing so much for the accessibility of golf.
Well, I think having listened to all the shows so far and these people are involved, I think it's an incredible step of advancement for like you and me. Origin stories are, you hear about golf through other golfers type of thing. And now even with the Las Vegas sign that you have for selfies, stuff like that is so in the now, and you're on the cutting edge of it, and hooking to all these other groups only just makes it blow up in a...
Yeah, the idea of branding...
It's an amazing way to go.
Has been fun, and the idea behind this show is fun. It started out as a podcast, and then my dear friend John Strong, who we've been in bands off and on together our whole adult lives, he had all of this video equipment, multiple camera setups, and a switcher because during COVID they were doing live band. Everybody had to stay home, so they were getting the band in a room and doing multiple camera angle live Facebook shots. So the original idea for this show was we'd just shoot live on Facebook, and I'd have multiple cameras. I was going to get a producer in here. The original idea was a lot different, and there was a couch. People who have been watching from the beginning remember just a few months ago, everything looked different. But the idea was always there, and it took us a year to build this because we never really had anyone pushing us. The general manager at the time, Jim, thank you so much, Jim. I don't know if he's ever going to watch these, but I'm going to send you maybe this one. Thank you for just letting me kind of go. I think you were still so freaked out about me losing my mind that you just said, go do whatever you want to do. And that's how this got built. We came up here and we exterminated the thing. We came up here and we went to Walmart and you painted this and we moved everything around. We've really built it from scratch and turned it into what it is now. And it's growing and it's exciting. And I couldn't be more thankful and grateful. It's cool. And I think it's only going to get cooler.
Well, that leads me to two quick Jed stories that will help you get to know Jed even better. He speaks of being in a band. I don't think I was living with you, but I was probably squatting with you at one point. I was just the couch surfing, and Jed comes home one day and says, "Guess what? We're in a band." And I didn't know how to play any music instrument, and he says, "You're the bass player. We got to go get you a bass." And that's the kind of guy he is. He's also the kind of guy that I've realized over the years that we can meet the same people out and about, and he used to ruffle their feathers a little bit on that first day, and I used to be their best bud, but I wouldn't even remember their name the next day. And Jed is long life friend of theirs 10 years later, almost always. He's just that guy, sticky.
Matt in Alaska said, how have we never met each other? Because he's very much that same type of guy where he seems to know everybody in town. And he's like, you know everybody in town, and we've never met. And I said, yeah, but we've never really run in the same circles because I'm not a player, And we even talked on his episode where he's a purist, and I'm certainly not.
Speaking of players.
Yeah, so Kareem Brown just walked in. If the lighting changed or there was a sound, we're going to shoot some Kareem episodes. We're going to start working him into the front end of these. So there's that, a little behind-the-scenes look.
Let me see if I'm on schedule for the show then, because it's about time for a par 5.
Yeah, I think we can. I think it'll be a good running time where we didn't go too long. So let's do the par 5 and get out of here.
Par 5 means I'm going to throw 5 quirky and interesting questions at Jed. Y'all probably know him if you've seen the show before. Starts off with favorite movie.
Favorite golf movie. Yeah. Well, it was Caddyshack until Tin Cup. And I know that I think another reason that I'm going to be one of the only people who says that is non-purists are too young for it, and purists can't ever get over the fact of the way the movie ends.
Well, that's true, because as a former golfer, I couldn't handle the way it ended at all.
Most golfers couldn't.
I liked the movie most of the way up until his finish, but no, can't handle it now that I don't play as much and I don't take myself as seriously as I was as a golfer. Brilliant. Yeah, it's
Well, it's also interesting that the scene with him and Romeo on the tee when he won't let him hit the driver, and so he breaks every club in the bag. That's you.
yeah, that is.
So I don't know why that wouldn't be your favorite
Well, that's
movie,
why I say
or maybe that's why.
I loved it until.
The funny thing about Tin Cup is it reminds me of the old cliches of my dad and Larry Webb and those guys. That is, until they got wives and kids, that was the lifestyle they lived.
They were getting after.
He wears his golf shoes, his dress shoes without the spikes in them.
Well, and I also appreciated them working his swing flaws into the script, if you remember rightly. Yeah, the unfinished symphony of
the
Boy.
Yep.
Yeah, is that how it goes?
The C.
Yeah. All right. Well, that pushes us on to golf clubs, I believe.
Yep, golf clubs.
Do you have a favorite in the bag?
No, but I will answer, I guess, what it was when I was a player in junior high and high school.
Don't say 3-iron.
I would not say 3-iron. No, it was like a 4 or 5 wood or a hybrid. Hybrids were very new back then. I think I hit a 4 or 5 wood. And those were easier to hit.
That was good. I carried a 4-wood throughout my whole playing days because it was versatile and I liked what it could do. So that makes sense.
That would have been it.
I was a little bit bitter when hybrids came out because I was on the back end of playing and I was like, oh man, that's kind of what I tried to carry around in that 4-wood all that time.
Yeah.
So that's a little nostalgic. Thank goodness it wasn't the 3-iron since if you've watched a previous show, he doesn't have one. Or you might now. You've switched clubs, I believe.
I don't notice that anymore.
Let's go. Whoa.
No.
Let's try to remedy that. If anybody out there in the golf world has a 9-iron for Jed,
I don't need a
let's
set
get
of
him
clubs.
a 9-iron and a putter.
Question number 3.
Yeah, that goes right to foursome. Any foursome you could have of anybody in history.
Yeah, we've already established that I don't love to play the game. So I've thought about this answer, and I think I've come up with my perfect answer. It would definitely be my brother, Tony. We would have a ball. But after the emotional one, it would be Mitch Hedberg and Doug Stanhope. Because those two would just make me laugh and laugh. And Tony and I would just laugh and laugh and laugh. And we'd play at Augusta, of course, because that group should never play Augusta, and it would be awesome. And Tony would take it seriously, and it would be rad. And I would not give 2 Fs, and it would be
somebody
awesome.
should film it because
it would make for a good reel, wouldn't it?
Because Mitch would say something funny.
Doug would say something funny. Yeah.
High quality comedy right there. You don't know. That puts us on drinking fluid, which is going to be a 2-parter, I assume.
Yeah. Aiming fluid. Well, on the golf course, when we played back in the day, we were not manly drinkers. So we would drink Smirnoff Ice and Zimas. Do you remember that?
Yummy.
We would drink Zimas on the golf course, I remember.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Mike's Hard Lemonade.
Put a little of that Chambord in the Zima.
Mike's Hard Lemonade and Chambord and Zima.
I do remember that.
Just gross, horrible things. When I got older, it was Claus Azul tequila. It's the best drink in the world, and it's the only one that I miss now that I'm sober. That's a really good drink.
That is a good answer because you introduced me to that back in the day, and that is a very good tequila.
Yeah.
So let's say you and I go play Cloud 9, and it's 120. You're just going to stick with water and hydration fluid these days.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no ginger ale. I drink more ginger ale than.
All right.
Than anything these days.
Now, I golfed with you many times, and I actually don't remember you getting that frustrated or pissed off enough to really start launching too many obscenities or anything out there. What's your
It was
go-to?
much more when I was younger, but when I was in junior high and high school, I swore horribly. And it was this is the part of the show that's no longer PG rated because we got through my episode without swearing. We can't say the same thing for Robby's. So yeah, I'm going to say it. It's always some form of jackass, and I can use it a lot of different ways. I'm a jackass. Jed, you jackass. What a jackass. Fucking jackass. Why are you a jackass? Don't be a jackass.
If you're playing somewhere in Arizona and you see an actual jackass, you got that covered too. So, I mean,
There you go.
jackass is, nobody has said that one, I don't think, on your show. And that's kind of surprising.
And the reason for the question is, I really still believe this. Everyone's got one word. They do. They go to their phrase or their word. So,
Jackass.
and I think most of the answers have been really interesting and funny on those. So yeah, that's it.
Well, all right. I appreciate Jed letting me do the takeover of the show because, much like him, I like to have a microphone in front of me and ramble on a little bit because that's what we do.
Yeah. Thanks for letting us be
And
self-absorbed.
Thank you, Angel Park, for all the effort you're putting into this show, and let's keep it rolling. And yeah.
I think that's it.
That's your sign
Until
off?
next time, hit 'em straight from your friends at Angel Park. Cheers.
Cheers.